I would like to begin by asking you few cues, and those who agree or do that action may raise their hands, and those who do not can keep their hands down. So, how many of you use the public transport for regular traveling? Well, nice. How many of you try to source your grocery items locally? Nice. And how many of you consciously try to ensure that food does not go waste? Very good. How many of you how many of you compost whatever you waste? Well, that's impressive, but unfortunately, that does not represent the majority of India, and here is why. It is Environmental Performance Index by World Economic Forum that says India is ranked 180 out of 180 countries. No, please don't mistake. It is not the exam score. It is rank 180. India is ranked last among all the nations, and this report tells us about the health of an environment and sustainability of the country. And this in itself shows how much educated we all are about climate change. And unfortunately, as a nation, we do not value such reports, thinking of them as made up to, to just insult a nation or to just spread hatred. But the reality is that 65% of Indians do not know about climate change, and they don't even recognize it as a threat. And it is a report by Yale University. And out of 35% of those who recognize climate change as a threat, 80% of them think that climate education will help making making climate action a more accelerated movement in India. So, most of you must be thinking what we can do as individuals to solve such a big crisis such as climate, because it has a lot of aspects to it. Increasing heat waves in India, due to which thousands of people are dying, increasing snow caps are increasing the levels of the ocean, the change rainfall patterns are becoming problematic for the farmers. And such are the problems that climate is causing. And in the future, it is going to become an even a bigger problem for all of us. So, climate education is must to achieve India's environmental and SDGs targets. So, I would like to share an interesting fact with you that India is one of the few countries that has made the environmental education a compulsory part of the formal education. But unfortunately, like the general knowledge and life skill, it is among the lowest of the priority subjects, hence mostly ignored. And that's why climate education comes as one of the most visionary and strongest action in our fight against climate change. So, what we really need in climate education? Most of us may think we already have environmental education in schools, in primary schools, we all have studied. So, I would like to share an example. So, when I was in school, our teacher taught the harmful effects of plastic to the classes, and the next day she asked us to create a project to to just see in which areas we use plastic and how can we reduce our wastage of plastic. So all the students were really excited. They made the projects, and in the end, they all submitted it in a plastic file. So, what's the use of studying that? So, what comes out of this example is that there is a missing passion and empathy in the classroom. We focus a lot on the cognitive knowledge, and rather we need to put our hands, hearts, and minds to teach our children what are really the impact of climate, the how we are unintentionally from our actions are harming environment. Just one more example, the single use plastic. We all go outside. It is my mom's example. She used to go outside without taking the bag, and at that time the government announced a ban on single use plastic bags. So she always used to ask कि भैया कोई बात नहीं, आज मैं थैला लेके आना भूल गई तो दे दीजिए. And that shopkeeper used to say कि चले ठीक है madam, it will cost you an extra 2 rupees. So, somewhere consciously we need to bring it in, we need to experience that. Although we all know that plastic is harmful, uh, our actions such as over shopping, traveling alone, traveling independently in a private transports. Such practices are harmful for our environment, but we need to consciously learn how much impact they are creating on environment. So my planet, my home, my responsibility should be the attitude of citizens interested in saving the planet. Those who have this attitude will have a sense of belonging to the planet. If the country's policymakers, curriculum developers, educators, teachers, and other stakeholders have a green attitude and a sense of belonging, the nation can produce responsible green citizens. And with this uh, belief, we took an initiative when the air air uh, quality in the North India was deteriorating poorly. And at that time, my father was suffering from a lungs infection, and it was becoming really hard for him to even breathe in open. We had to we had to make special arrangements for him, and at that time it was the festive season. Everyone was burning crackers, and the pollution was on its peak. So I tried to do an initiative in my street that I I wanted to request everyone that please don't burn crackers. Please, at least for this time, a lot of people in our street are suffering from such disease due to COVID, but no one was ready to listen because they all didn't have that empathetic side in their hearts that it is really a problem. They very much valued their culture. Although I respect their culture, I respect their beliefs, but that sense of belonging to the planet and to ourselves was missing. So, to address that, we thought that education can be a really powerful way to influence the citizens, and especially habits are made in the childhood. It is very difficult for us to adopt new habits or to build new habits when we grow up. So it is very easy for children to adopt new habits because they are growing at that time. So we identified that if we could bring in and embed sustainability in schools in all the aspects, if we can, as individuals, as institutions, as nations, as a nation, if we can embed sustainability in all the aspect, we can really create a generation that is conscious about climate and conscious about their action. And that's when I, along with my friends, started a petition to include climate education in schools. So initially, no one really supported this. They all thought that we already have environmental education in school. Why do we need one more subject, addition of one more book, one more exam? Why do we need that? But over 1.5 years, we 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 remained consistent on this, and persuaded almost 15,000 people to sign our petition and supporting our cause. And that's when we used to see that climate is mostly ignored in the politics and in the media discourse. We saw how media channels started supporting our petition to include climate education. And that was the moment we got really hopeful. We got really hopeful that yes, if we can do this, we can bring even a bigger change. So we kept going in the ahead, and we sent a letter to the PMO, Prime Minister's office, and to our surprise, within 15 days, we received a response from the Prime Minister office saying that he has uh, directed the education department to meet with us and to create a curriculum, or to find way how can we embed climate education in schools. And that was the time we felt like yes, it can be it can be possible. We can really raise a generation of climate conscious citizens. And then we thought, like, how can we also bring it up in more personalized way? Because in schools, almost more than one third of the population in India goes to some kind of institution. They either go to school, they either, they either go to college, but we still had a two-third of population. And that's where we thought that stories can be a really uh, powerful way to inspire citizens. So I would like to share some stories. So one is of a 25-year-old change maker. When she got to know how serious the problem is, she created an app called Cool the Globe, in which she allows us to calculate the carbon we are emitting from our actions. And that has created a phenomenal change the society. She has got almost 1 lakh downloads on her app, and it is still progressing for good. Another story, a very inspiring story, is of a 65-year-old woman from Bangalore who learned about composting. And she used her influence to inspire many citizens to adopt composting as a habit. We usually throw we, we usually throw the waste that we generate from fruits and vegetables in our house in the garbage. But she used it to create a compost, and uh, today she has inspired more than 2 lakh 30,000 people to adopt such habits and to compost their waste. Another story is of a change maker from Uttar Pradesh who identified the who identified the ash as a harm for the environment. In the temples, we light agarbattis. So that waste used that waste is usually floated in the rivers, and that cause the water pollution. So he came with an idea. How can he transform that ash into idols? And today he's not just transforming that ash to idols, but also providing employment to the women from rural areas, and also training the prisoners. So, so such is the power of climate education. And if we can educate everyone in our country and around the globe, we can really raise a generation of climate conscious citizens. And at the end, I would just like to say we can't surrender to despair. We have to go out and look for the hope we need to inspire us to act. And that hope begins with a conversation. Conversation today, conversation now. Thank you so much.